Part 38. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 387. Like a rolling dragon, the light flame sword in Ling's hand bounced off the hard shell, bursting out with dazzling sparks. It was just a simple slash, and even the sword of light, which was as sharp as iron, fell into a hard fight. Although releasing her true ability elemental control can cause damage to the hard shell, this expensive skill should be used to kill with one hit, rather than repeatedly attacking parts that are not the focus. It's obviously just a reptile that looks like a dragon, but its shell is harder than a turtle. The giant steel dragon, in Ling's eyes, was just the giant snake's mimicry magic suit rolling its body again. Ling kept stepping on the force application point with her feet and leaped high, matching the movements of the giant snake to maintain relative balance. If this kind of violent exercise was carried out without the Liberation Light Flame Sword, the body without the strengthening magic would have accumulated dozens of times the fatigue. If you think of this thing as a dragon, you can accept it? Even the lowest level dragon scales are not much different in hardness than my blade, but it's not a big problem if you want to cut it open. The explanation of the light flame sword slowly sounded in Ling's mind. In front of Ling's eyes, she could even see her sitting leisurely in the water and sipping sake, admiring Ling's hard work in the outside world with great interest. Thinking of this, Ling became angry. Stop making sarcastic remarks there. You told me to knock out the core. How can I find the core in this situation? This is also the first time I've seen this kind of thing. Maybe even the core. Hey, are you just telling me now that you've been asking me to find something that doesn't exist? Haha, how is that possible? Give me a little more time to observe, maybe there is something I missed. It's so easy to say, come and help me buy time. Ling could no longer continue communicating with Guanjianjian, suddenly he was talking in my head. I originally expected you to be able to help me, so I didn't care. Now, you're just watching the fun and don't mind it. I don't know why, but Ling is always a little annoyed by Guanjianjian's attitude of being able to do everything he can. Even though it was just residing in his own body, his attitude was still so leisurely that it was impossible to tell who was the real owner. Ah, why is even Ika so far away from me? Even lowering his head to ask Ika for advice was more comfortable than arguing with the light flame sword, but from this distance, even if his throat was broken, his voice would only be muffled by the strong wind. Although Ling thought about using a PDA, after trying it, he found that his hands had no chance of touching the PDA in his pocket. Ling, who was in a state of confusion, even forgot about the fear of being in the battle, and once again waved the red gold sword as if to vent his anger. His eyes returned to Ika again. Using the powerful mobility of the exoskeleton, Ika broke through from the opposite direction of Ling, the steel dragon. While gaining strong mobility, it had to give up part of its attack power, so Ika did not deploy heavy weapons in the air at the same time. Instead, like Ling, he used light weapons to defeat the weak. The firepower of the long barrel and the predator pressed forward at the same time, and the 6 floating cannons were like cutting knives cutting through the hard scales. The steel dragon seemed to be rolling in more pain. This should bring a lot of trouble to Ling, and the progress must be accelerated. Hitomi, does this kind of thing really have a core? After all, we still don't know what concepts of magic technology the mimicry magic equipment uses. Then destroy them all. Sure enough, Hitomi wasn't very sure whether this unknown technology could be explained with existing knowledge. At first, Ika also thought of using Yggdrasil to destroy the seemingly indestructible steel dragon. Although this idea seemed too ideal, it was the most effective. If we change the way the magic power is output and only reveal part of the weapons of Yggdrasil, it should be more than enough to deal with this kind of thing. Yggdrasil is equivalent to my body. If the master only uses part of my body, he may not be able to ejaculate. Although I understand what you mean, please stop using that weird expression. I am simply informing the owner of the risks of this practice. However, If Hitomi did not express any objection, it meant that there was indeed no need to summon the entire Yggdrasil and only the combined arms of the ship could be used to launch an attack. The key problem is that Ling is still on the body of the steel dragon, and if the artillery fire is fired, she will be involved. Without any further thought, Ika decided to take a big gamble. He converted the magic output of his exoskeleton to the limit, and the thrusters on his back instantly burst into dazzling silver-white light. Ika turned into a silver-white trajectory and crossed with the bloody mouth of the steel dragon at lightning speed. His target was Ling on the steel dragon's body. In the moment when the two of them crossed paths, Ika conveyed the sentence to her in less than a second. Jump. With just one word in the sentence, Ika passed by Ling. Whether Ling can understand what she means and whether she can jump from such a height will determine her next fate. But Ika has this feeling, she will definitely believe in herself and act according to her words, just as she believes in her so much. In just 2 seconds, Ika flew from the head of the giant steel dragon to its tail, and the giant body was about to turn around and pounce on Ika again. Mechanical Alchemy Yggdrasil. The combined armed force composed of multiple sets of gunports is only part of the ancient super-large aviation magic ship, but it has already revealed a coercion that cannot be blasphemed. Like a giant beast tearing apart space, like a spear of destiny pointing towards victory. The silver-white holy spear penetrated straight through the ugly giant body and penetrated the hazy sky. After the smoke dissipated, the colorful sunshine shone on the earth again. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 388. When Ika left only one word to himself, Ling Dang even understood the hope he gave him. After knowing what he should do next, Ling couldn't feel a trace of panic in his heart. She withdrew the sharp blade inserted into the giant snake's scales with her backhand to maintain balance, and jumped down from an altitude of several thousand meters. Pulled by gravity, as he fell to the ground thousands of meters away, the sound of wind rushing past his ears was like a roar, covering up all other sounds around him. All the counter-current blood in the body rushed to the brain, and the passage of time seemed to stop abruptly. This kind of experience probably only happens once in a lifetime, and no matter what the outcome is, it will never happen again. Close your eyes, you can't hear any sound in your ears, you can't see anything in front of you, only every cell in your body is experiencing the feeling of accelerating falling. What is Ika doing now? To be honest, Ling didn't know anything, not even what he planned to do next. Still, he jumped off as he said. Why do you listen to him so much? Because he saved his life when he was about to die, should this life be used for him? The body that has lost all restraints has been completely liberated, so Ling can have the opportunity to think so wildly. Of course that's not the case. As a Ling girl, it is absolutely impossible for her to feel wronged like this. Just to save your own life, you have to agree with your life. How could it be such a stupid reason? From beginning to end, Ling never obeyed Ika. Even Lugo Lugo, who was close to him, and Wei 11, who was close to him, had never thought of using such stupid reasons to explain their feelings for him. Just because I like him and believe in him, I am willing to entrust him with half of my life. Because Ika said so. I can't imagine the days when you are not here. At the moment when her life was about to disappear, she suddenly discovered that she also had a sentimental side, and Ling couldn't help but reveal a wry smile. After all, it's just to find a reasonable reason for the budding love. At this moment, the body pulled by gravity, the blood flowing backwards, and the sound of wind in the ears all disappeared. Arms that were stronger than the air pressure I felt during my rapid fall supported my helpless body. Ling opened her eyes carefully, and saw strong shoulders hugging her shoulders and legs, suspended in mid-air. The backflow of blood in his body was gradually receding, and Ling's eyes still felt dizzy. The sunlight in the hazy sky seemed particularly dazzling. He couldn't clearly see Ika's face against the light, but Ling had no reason to believe that she knew what his expression looked like at this moment. Very good. It was obviously what she should have said to him, but he said it before he could. Then nothing can be said. In Aika's eyes, what kind of expression does he look like now? Because her cheeks were numb, Ling couldn't imagine her current expression, but she thought it should be the kind that looked silly. In order not to let her silly expression embarrass herself, Ling pressed her forehead against Aika's chest. A strong heartbeat came from his chest, just like the beating heart in his own chest. My life is controlled by you. I've got you from the very beginning, right? What? Ling immediately forgot the shame he felt at the previous moment, his eyes widened, and his cheeks suddenly turned red. Say, what did you say about me? That means I've got a part of your life, right? From the moment you became my family. Shut up, shut up, shut up. Ling, who understood what Aika was talking about, couldn't continue to act stupid and could only curl up in his arms. The two began to descend slowly, and the wind they felt at this moment became extremely gentle. You don't even know what it means to be responsible for a part of my life, do you? Burying her face in Aika's arms, Ling muttered softly. The wind was so loud and my voice was so small. I didn't want Aika to hear it in the first place. Just to vent his dissatisfaction, he casually spoke out the feelings that were pressing on his chest. Even if I know it now, I can't answer you, right? You told me to shut up. Don't eavesdrop on what others are saying, you idiot. Didn't you tell me that? Who deliberately pretended to talk to himself and told you? Even if he heard it, wouldn't it be enough to just pretend not to hear it? Then just pretend that I didn't say what I just said, and just pretend you didn't hear it. Fool. The embarrassing atmosphere gradually dissipated with the flowing wind. Half of each other's lives are imprinted deep in their souls and become a part of their daily lives that will remain in their hearts forever. Why did you handle it so quickly? We just arrived and it was already over. Feely stood far away from the battlefield, observing the crumbling tower with the help of her magic weapon-splitting gun. The handheld shipborne gun with a range of 10,000 meters is also the most powerful weapon of the Hive fleet. It was originally planned to support Aika and Ling with ultra-long-range artillery strikes, but now Feely is using it as a cheap telescope. Nowadays, the tower that has ceased to be used seems to have had more than half of its side wall hollowed out, leaving the inside of the tower sadly exposed. The Protoss troops had already entered the high tower and started searching for the remnants of the smuggling group. Feely and Carolil, who had arrived in a hurry, did not participate in the fierce air battle at all. From a distance, I saw a violent burst of magic coming from the battle area at the top of the tower. It was a primitive power that was enough to completely destroy anything related to magic with its aftermath. In order to prevent a Sikong from being affected by the magic power, Carolil deliberately slowed down her progress and waited for the aftermath of this burst of magic power to completely dissipate. After the aftermath dissipated, the monitor redisplayed the current situation of the battlefield, and the ugly body of the steel dragon was no longer visible above the tower. Surprisingly, the tower was not affected by the battle at all. It seemed that Aika deliberately avoided causing damage to the tower. Probably because there are people important to him in that tower. According to Lady Letica, he and Lolo-san were transferred there together. Even if the target of the battle was not Lolo-san, Aika still considered her. It's possible that it will be inside that tower. I heard that Logo is completely different now and in the past. As a classmate, Carol was a bit unimaginable, but there was no reason not to believe it. Thinking of Aika, who valued his sister more than his own life, Carolee couldn't help but worry that he would lose his mind again in the center of the battlefield. That unreserved attack style may reflect his mood at the moment. Even here, you can feel that the magic flow in the surrounding air is disturbed by the aftermath. It will be at least a few months before the magic flow in this area returns to normal. I hope it ends here. She murmured to herself, I didn't expect to make such a big noise. It can really be called a big event now. At least more than half of the people in the God Clan's territory have noticed it. This is a fight. Miss Carol? There is something I don't know whether I should say. Philae put away the sky-splitting gun and looked at the horizon with some hesitation, while Carolittle looked at Philly in confusion. It seemed that Carolittle really didn't know, and Philly sighed sadly. Do you believe that the ability of speaking spirit exists in the world? Word spirit? I've heard of it before. It's magic that can turn words into mysterious power, right? That's probably what it means. There is a saying that anyone can actually use the word spirit. For example, if you say the pain flies away to an injured child, she will actually feel that the pain is relieved. This is equivalent to the lowest level healing magic. Even people without the talent for healing magic can easily do this. Ha, it seems to make sense. Carolittle didn't know how to respond to Philae's words. It felt like she had something to tell herself, but she had made so many unclear foreshadowings. So, like what you just said, when we are sailing, not just us, it is forbidden in many situations. Hope it can end here, is the sentence. Even events that might have ended peacefully may now have consequences. Beep 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 beep. Before Carol had time to chew on the meaning of Philly's words, an urgent call came from the Protoss Palace. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 389. In a small city somewhere in the territory of the gods, the magic power of the entire city was unexpectedly blocked. Although the magic in the air has not completely disappeared, the magic that has stopped flowing is in vain, and residents throughout the city have developed magic failure syndrome. In the territory of the gods, magic power failure will not only affect the body, but will also have very serious consequences. The existence of the magnificent floating urban cluster relies on the support of magic. If the flow of magic in the air is blocked, the floating city cluster will be in danger of collapse. Some buildings that were neglected or had no emergency response measures have begun to collapse, and 90% of the functions of the entire floating urban cluster have stopped. This was an unheard of situation, and there were no remedial measures to deal with such a disaster in that area. Even rescue operations were difficult to carry out. The Protoss troops need to prepare backup magic power supply devices. By the time they can be dispatched, it is already too late. Are you kidding me? All the magic is gone. Carolittle whispered to the other side of the communication machine to confirm the specific situation, but no matter how many times she asked, she got the same answer. In which direction? How far is it from here? Carolittle repeated Philae's question to the other side of the communication machine, and then related to her. If the news spread incorrectly, it might cause unnecessary panic, so Carol only let Philae know the truth. After estimating the approximate location and distance, Philae summoned the sky-splitting gun again. That distance is within the range that my magic equipment can see. I can help you confirm it, by the way. Thank you, that's very helpful, Philly. In Philae's field of vision, she indeed saw a floating urban cluster that was on the verge of complete paralysis as mentioned in the report. Philae had more or less noticed the reason for this scene. It seems that your report is true. It may have something to do with the things in that tower. Do you know why this happened? It will take a lot of time to explain this clearly. In short, we can only wait for the results of the investigation. By the way, tell them about this situation. Have you sent someone to pick them up? After using Carolittle's PDA to contact the two protagonists of this battle, Philae told them about the crisis facing the Protoss territory. Ika, who understood the cause and effect, immediately understood what Philae wanted to convey. If the current incident is connected with the Nemesis Society, and the mimic magic equipment can produce similar fluctuations as the magic equipment, it is not unexpected to cause this phenomenon. The only difference between this and the original purpose of the Nemesis Society is that the scope of this collapse is very small, and the impact is obviously not as terrifying as Pope Sethys said. It seems to have only caused this phenomenon experimentally. Sorry, Ling and I can't come back yet, we have to go to the tower. I know, I'm just here to tell you about it. I won't bother you to find my sister, but if you find anything that looks like a safety device in the tower, destroy it. Do you understand? But they may not have installed any safety devices, which is a possibility if it was them. After explaining these words to the two of them, Feli returned the PDA to Carolil. During the communication, the PDA's external broadcast was turned on, so Carolil also heard the communication between them. Even if she didn't know the whole story, Carolil could understand it to a certain extent. That is to say, there is something in that tower that is controlling those mimicry magic outfits, and then the controlled mimicry magic outfits caused this phenomenon, right? You can understand so quickly and save me the time to explain. 3 new members were added to the temporarily formed emergency rescue team. Wei 11, who successfully intercepted the attacker Misty, Lan Ming, who had just woken up from the effects of hypnotic drugs not long ago, and her attendant Knight Charlotte. When the events in that city reached their ears, Lan Ming also realized the connection between the incident and the Nemesis Society. She had not been treated excessively in previous tracing operations, and the hypnotic drugs only played the most basic role. The fleet of the emergency rescue team was composed of medium-sized subships carried by Tasi Kong. When they arrived at the outer circle of the floating urban cluster that was on the verge of collapse, volunteers from nearby cities were already here to prepare to meet the fleet of the palace troops. With their support, Lan Ming boarded the subship preparing to enter the center of the incident area. This subship and other subships are also equipped with sufficient reserve magic power and can operate in an environment with no magic supply at all for about half an hour. Half an hour is enough. I won't show mercy. Lan Ming showed everyone a confident smile, which made Wei 11, who was originally worried about her physical condition, also smile reassuringly. The two of them will not act together. Wei 11 wants to go to the ground with other team members to rescue ordinary residents. Wei 11 believes that her barrier should be able to help everyone in the rescue work. Xiaoluo followed Lan Ming on the same subship into the center of the floating urban cluster. While driving the subship, he was always ready to take action to solve various difficulties that Lan Ming might face. After entering the floating city circle, Lan Ming activated the ability of the royal magic weapon Candle Dragon Melting Gold. Synchrony, start. The coat of arms symbolizing Lan Ming's noble status rose into the air, shining on the land like a second sun, bringing light of hope. It didn't even take half a minute for Lan Ming to grasp the situation of the mimicry magic equipment in this floating city group. Indeed, as Feli had guessed, the underground pipeline facilities of this floating city cluster were equipped with dozens of mimicry magic costumes, and the magic pathways formed between them drew the shape of a complex magic circle. This is probably what Feli said, a degraded version of the magic circle that covers the entire continent, composed of the ruins of the birth of magic equipment. In this way, the significance of the mimicry magic costume to the Nemesis Society becomes clear. The development of mimic magic equipment is to provide a base point for simulating magic circles that eliminate magic, and this floating urban group unfortunately became their test subject. As Lan Ming said before, she would not show mercy. After determining the specific location of each mimicry magic outfit, analyzing the basic points of the magic array and constructing a theory, she began to eliminate them step by step. Resonance, start dash. The golden coat of arms was divided into the same number as the mimicry magic costumes captured by Lan Ming, and they were arranged over the predetermined locations. If it were just a single mimicry magic outfit, the resonance and synchronization of the Candle Dragon's molten gold could destroy it instantly, but when the magic path formed between them draws a magic circle, it needs to be treated with caution. The magic circle is divided into multiple layers. The number of layers and the complexity of the runes between layers symbolize the polymorphism of the construction theory. Each rune and line can be combined with each other to form another magic circle with different effects. For example, if the runes at 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock on the third layer of the transfer magic circle are reversed, and then the intersecting curve connecting the two runes is eliminated, the transfer magic circle will transform into a burst magic circle. If such a mistake occurs due to carelessness when drawing the magic circle, the person who originally just wanted to teleport through space will be wiped out. Of course, even if the construction basis of more magic arrays is changed, it will not produce other effects. This kind of magic array accounts for 80% of the existing magic arrays, and there are only a few extremely dangerous ones. Of course, the transfer magic circle is a common basic magic and is also classified as a minority. Therefore, whether using magic tools or fluid bases, they are deployed in the default mode. This is the magic theory that troubles most students of Shiyu Academy, including Ling and Aika. It is now a basic course with the highest failure rate in Shiyu Academy. Needless to say, before magic theory becomes a specialized subject for second-year students, it is also a required course for those who are new to the magical world. For Lan Ming, this basic theory is knowledge that must be mastered. She has memorized the general catalog of magic theory and the special catalog of the royal family by heart. Lan Ming carefully used resonance synchronization and began to eliminate this extremely complex magic circle from the outermost layer. Although this completely unfamiliar magic circle is difficult to deal with, it is not completely impossible to deal with. Before each elimination, Lan Ming would draw a perfect picture of what the magic circle would look like after elimination in his mind to ensure that it would not turn into other magic he mastered. The fate of this floating urban group was all staked in these 30 minutes. In addition to the tens of millions of people in the Bes Empire and the Tiberai Kingdom, Lan Ming once again shouldered the lives of thousands of residents of the God clan. This time, he must do his best to save those who need his help, just like he did to himself. Wei 11 and the members of the rescue team landed on the ground and immediately began to rescue the Protoss residents who were suffering from exhaustion of magic power. The water is clear and the mirror is bright, the flowers and the moon are just like this, everything is illusion, wherever the heart goes, wherever the body goes. The snow-colored goblins dance gracefully against the background of the collapse of the end of the century, chanting the name of the power that calls for miracles. Mirror image barrier, mirror flowers, water moon. This is the magic that once helped Aika and the 5 of them move to the palace of the gods thousands of meters away. The ability liberated in the name of magic equipment is officially a super wide area spatial positioning teleportation magic. For Wei 11, it is very simple to develop this kind of magic that transcends the theory of enchantment, but it plays an indispensable role at the rescue scene. Relying on her special identity, Wei 11 was not greatly affected in an environment where magic power stopped flowing. The key is that the rescue team can only rely on the magic supply device to carry out activities in this area. The magic that completely replaces the transportation manpower within this range greatly shortens the time required to rescue a person. The dazzling light of the candle dragon's molten gold bloomed in the sky. It was the golden light that Wei 11 had seen in Aika's spiritual world, symbolizing imperial power and hope. Wei 11 didn't want to lose to Tong, nor did she want to fall behind Lan Ming. With a hint of competitiveness that even she herself could not easily detect, Wei 11 focused all her attention on the rescue scene, dedicating the meaning of her existence here without reservation. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 390. Only took half the scheduled time. A quarter of an hour later, the magic power of the floating urban cluster finally returned to normal flow. Lan Ming released the synchronic resonance of the candle dragon's molten gold, and she kept walking on thin ice for a quarter of an hour, delicately destroying all the mimicry magic equipment in the floating city. Charlotte, who had been watching Lan Ming behind him, immediately supported his shaky body. The emblem of the candle dragon molten gold disappeared, but it was forever engraved in the hearts of the gods who were saved by her and knew about it. When Lan Ming regained consciousness in the room of the Protoss Palace in the evening, he learned that Wei 11 had successfully completed the rescue mission, and the mobile team heading to the tower had returned safely. After listening to Xiaoluo's explanation, Lan Ming nodded sadly. Perhaps it was because the incident had come to an end when he fell asleep, as if he had a hazy feeling that he was still in a dream. There are strange tubes connected to his body. It was probably a medical device unique to the Protoss. A faint light slowly flowed into the body in the transparent tube. If it were Charlotte from the past, she would definitely have an expression that looked like she was about to cry again, but this time she held back. Teacher Letica said that the princess must stay in the room until she can get out of bed, so please rest peacefully. Just tell me in a more relaxed tone at this time. Lan Ming deliberately laughed out loud in order to make Xiaoluo feel at ease. But Charlotte didn't agree with Lan Ming. He just walked to her bed silently, took off his beret and put it on his knees. He seemed a little tired. Your Highness, I'm sorry, I seem to have reached my limit. Whether it was watching you put yourself in danger or this rescue operation, I have failed to fulfill the obligations that God owes to your knight. Although he tried hard to show a calm expression that wanted Lan Ming not to worry, the words he confided made Lan Ming feel worried all the time. She picked up the beret from Charlotte's lap, sat up from the bed and put it on her head again, patting her head gently through the hat. This was a gift that Lan Ming personally selected and gave to Charlotte when the relationship between the two was officially established as the Princess of the Bis Empire and the knight guarding the princess. For Charlotte, this beret is like the incarnation of Lan Ming and is her most cherished treasure. Charlotte, do you know the purpose of Ika taking me to the street that day? Of course, Xiaoluo would not know, because Ika did not tell Xiaoluo his purpose of doing this, which was equivalent to forcibly snatching Lan Ming from his hands. Looking back now, Charlotte is still a little bit resentful about simply letting Ika go at that time. He said that he hoped that I could live as Lan Ming, not as the princess of the Bis Empire. I still remember him saying something very outrageous. He said that my existence has nothing to do with anyone's life. That's too much, right? This is equivalent to denying my value as the third princess of the Bis Empire. So I didn't hesitate to attack him. Lan Ming told Xiaoluo with a guilt-free tone. Your Highness, did you beat Ika? Charlotte couldn't believe that the gentle and elegant princess would actually do something as rude as beating someone. Even the outrageous words Ika said to her were put in the second place. Well, that must have been the second time I attacked him. And twice. Although I know these are all his good intentions. Including the first time, when we took a civilian airship to the kingdom of Tiberai to sign a contract, at that time he was only thinking about venting his anger on Wei 11. So I can never wrong, it's just that what he did was too clumsy. Although Lan Ming complained about all the bad things about Ika, the expression on her face said otherwise. If you want to describe it, the look on Lan Ming's face now is exactly the look she had when she recalled the dreamy meeting with the longed-for prince at the welcome party in the girls' dormitory of Shiyu Academy. Although at that time it was just to confuse the girls around her, now she is truly expressing her true feelings. Whether it was that time or now, Lan Ming's state of mind has never changed. But overall, it was a very happy date. After the two came back from the celebration during the preparations for Children's Day, although Xiaoluo, who was extremely concerned about this, kept looking for opportunities to ask Lan Ming about his day, Lan Ming just smiled and said nothing. It wasn't until now that she wanted to share with Charlotte what Ika had taught her, that Lan Ming gave her an ambiguous glimpse of that date. Your Highness, you just said it was a date. Yes, it's a date. It's not a trip as a princess and a knight, it's just a date with a very ordinary boy. Lan Ming emphasized very ordinary 3 times, then covered his mouth and laughed. Charlotte opened her mouth slightly in surprise. This was the first time she saw Lan Ming smile so sincerely. Besides himself, it should be a happy thing if there is someone else who can make Lan Ming smile like this. Although there was a voice in Charlotte's heart that was talking about the imaginary Ika, another voice still expressed gratitude to him. Thank you for being able to stay with Her Royal Highness the Princess and achieve what only I cannot do for her. So, Charlotte, now do you know what I want to say to you? I think I won't be able to do what Her Highness the Princess wants. Charlotte raised her head and showed an uninhibited smile. This time it was Lan Ming who showed a surprised expression. In the heart of Charlotte Izian, Her Royal Highness the Princess will always be unshakable and cannot be replaced by anyone. If you want me to change this idea, Her Royal Highness the Princess, please let that man come on a date with me. Lan Ming was startled by Charlotte's out-of-character declaration. It took her a moment to realize that this was a challenge to Ika through herself, and she smiled happily. Do you want Ika to date you, make you shy, and eventually fall in love with you? How could you have such shameless thoughts? Girls should be bold enough to fall in love. How could I develop a relationship like that with that man? Perhaps, Xiaoluo already had his own ideas in mind, and the reason why he still didn't follow Lan Ming was just because of his competitiveness towards Ika. So, the way to eliminate this pure competitiveness is very simple. I have accepted your challenge on behalf of Ika. After all the incidents are over, you can also go on a date. Of course, it cannot be left to Charlotte to decide on your own and quietly do it without me knowing. Since you have let me know your thoughts, you must first obtain my consent, and I will arrange the date. After listening to what Lan Ming said with a soft smile, Charlotte's expression gradually became stiff. Lan Ming smiled and admired Charlotte's different expressions that changed like a dress-up doll, and wished that they could usher in that day under the sky where the haze has cleared. End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 391. Ika has been staying in her room since the pursuit mission was announced to be over. After experiencing such a fierce battle on the front line, Ika only asked for the minimum treatment, as if there were more important things to worry about than his physical condition. Even when night fell, he did not turn on the light in the room. Instead, he held his hands on the windowsill and looked at the starless night sky. The red moon still hung in the early summer night sky, just like the eyes of Lugo looking at Ika. A touch of bitterness filled his heart. In this unexpected meeting with Lugo, there was not even a viable conversation between the two. The only thing left for Ika was those red eyes with mixed emotions. Just as Lugo chose to leave, he was full of sadness and reluctance. Even though the red eyes were so cold, they couldn't hide the deep emotions inside them. Lugo, what exactly do you think of me? Even if you ask this question to Red Moon, of course you won't get an answer. Nothing can be a substitute for Lolo, and no one can answer for Lolo. When the emptiness in my heart could only be filled by the ethereal evening breeze, someone gently hugged Ika from behind. Don't ask why, I don't want to answer. Ling's voice sounded muffled, the sound coming from her face buried in Ika's back. Ika could only do as she wished without asking her why she did this. All he can do now is just hold onto the windowsill with both hands, his consciousness completely occupied by Ling's body temperature behind him. Without a trace of covering up or coyness, Ling entrusted her whole body to Ika's back. I'm sorry, it's very cunning to do this when you are thinking about Lugo, isn't it? How do I understand this cunning? If I pretend to be stupid, I might do something even more egregious and I won't apologize again. The surroundings seemed to have become quiet, and neither Ika nor Ling spoke again. After a long time, Ling still didn't let go of her hands, but her voice became clearer than before, accurately conveying her thoughts to Ika. Ika, what do you really think about me? After hearing these words, Ika realized that she had been standing behind him since then. The door to the room was not locked, and Ika did not have the habit of locking the door casually. He didn't notice when Ling opened the door and came in. If Lugo is not here, can't I be your support? Wouldn't it be possible if it were me? Ling behind her grasped Ika's clothes tightly, and even she herself didn't realize that she was exerting force. You don't have to answer when I want to ask a question, but I have to answer when you ask a question. In that sense, it's really cunning. Ika let go of her hands that were holding the windowsill, and overlapped with the cold back of Ling's hands. Ling's hands trembled unconsciously, but she did not choose to escape. Ling, for me, you are always by my side, but sometimes it feels too far away. Tell me in terms I can understand. Just one sentence is enough to explain. That is, I have been attracted to you since a long time ago. When he said this, Ling finally showed he was shaken. She tried to withdraw her hands and separate from Ika, but Ika gave her no chance to escape. If you had asked me what attracted me half a year ago, I probably wouldn't have been able to tell you. If I really wanted to say it, it would have been everything. Isn't this kind of statement an example of scum? If a girl feels happy hearing such words, she is either natural or deliberately pretending not to understand. This is what you ask me to tell you in terms you can understand. Ling slightly put more strength on the arm around Ika's waist. What about now? Her tone seemed like she was afraid of knowing the answer, clearly revealing her inner entanglement and melancholy. I think if I were asked to answer that question now, I would give the same answer. This was not the answer Ling wanted to hear, but Ika still wanted to tell her seriously. Because what I like about you is not anything special. Whether it is your stubborn character who always talks back to me, your delicacy when taking care of Luoluo and Wei 11, or your shy look occasionally, if you let me to list them one by one, there are countless places that attracted me in the year since we met. Maybe I have to skip tomorrow's throne handover ceremony to finish them. But if I have to mention them, they are at the top of my heart, or the most. One thing I think what I like most is the time I spend with you. It is precisely because of so much time we spent together that we are who we are now. Isn't this the most important thing to us? After saying so much, I still didn't answer my question. Ling's voice was choked with sobs. She definitely didn't want Ika to see her current expression. Ika gently removed Ling's hands that hugged her. Although it must have been a very cruel move to turn around and face her now, Ika still did it. I feel like I've answered it, and I've answered it clearly. Ling was right behind him, half of his face hidden in the shadow of the bright red moonlight, and he raised his head slightly to look at Ika. Yesterday. She immediately looked away to look at her feet, avoiding Ika's sight. I have thought about it many times. What have you been thinking about? If you were to ask me this question, wait a minute, don't get me wrong, this is just putting yourself in my shoes. If you were to ask me this question, maybe I would answer like you. So you just let me go so easily today. I'll let you go today. Ika smiled slightly, and the gloom that had been suppressed in her heart a few minutes ago gradually dissipated. You just asked me if the situation is very cunning, right? I know. Ling folded her arms and turned her face, hiding more of her expression in the shadow of the bright red moonlight. Actually, I didn't want to do this at first. But I heard you say Luoluo's name, I didn't call you, and then I did this kind of thing. Maybe in my subconscious, I just wanted to take advantage of this opportunity, thinking that by using this method at this time, you would answer me. Make it bigger. Even if your answer at this time may be just to deal with me casually, it is enough as long as you let me know. Then do you think my answer just now was spoken without thinking? Do you think that as long as the other party is a girl, I will use this statement to deal with them? The answer is of course no, and Ling knows this. The time the four spent together cannot be replaced by anything, that's for sure. During this year, Ling watched the growth of Luoluo and Wei 11, and at the same time realized his own changes. Originally, I only regarded Ika as a boy of the same age, but I might be better than him in every aspect. As a family member, the one who supports him should be himself. But just because of this year, Ling realized that this self-centered idea was absolutely wrong. Perhaps, he really shouldered part of Ika's troubles. But it was relying on Ika's gentleness and strength that gave me the confidence to share the burden for him. This messy sentence sounds like a paradox, with too many irrationalities. But this is reality. Unreasonable things abound in reality, and countless unreasonable things are enough to break the flashy illusions and build a new future full of unknown possibilities. Since you said that you like me because of the time we spent together, then I should be able to assume that you are already half sure of the first two questions, right? Her voice was serious and so were her eyes. Although her face was filled with crimson, which was caused by the bright red moonlight or other reasons, she did not escape, nor did she give Ika a chance to escape. There was no trace of confusion in Ika's answer. Then, the other half, tell me with actions. It was very simple, without any beating around the bush. Ling stood upright in front of Ika. Her eyes, glistening with tears, told of the action she was waiting for. The long eyelashes were trembling, and the fingertips holding the skirt tightly were also trembling. Then, Ika leaned down and shortened the distance between the two. That is more powerful than any high-sounding words, the contact between heart and soul. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 392. Chapter 392. Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, everyone. I am Muse Hiking, the author of this book, abbreviated as AI, or Cheng, Mew Mew. Although the above is just a routine opening statement, and everyone will probably skip it, I still say it again in order to fill up the word count of the postscript. First of all, I would like to apologize to all the readers for releasing this volume 2 months after the completion of the 10th volume. This is the first time since the serialization that updates have been interrupted for such a long time, so you have been waiting for a long time. But I think by the time you read this, it has been 2 months since the series was restarted. Maybe all the resentment you felt during the hiatus has been blown away by the wind, right? Hey. There are many new settings in this volume, and the protagonists have also moved from Shimizuki Academy and the BZ Empire to the mainland. Lolo, who helped Ika become strong, is no longer around, so Ika has to become strong. This is why Ika's image seems to have changed in this volume. Regarding the description of battle scenes mentioned in the postscript of the previous volume, I wonder if this volume brings you a refreshing feeling? Revising the battle scenes in chapters 3 and 4 was the most time-consuming part of this revision. It was my original intention to use words to make everyone feel like they were there, and to bring the tension and passion of the battle. In this way, the 11th volume of Endless Silver Machinery comes to an end. The following is a thank you. Illustration Teacher Kombucha, your sweet voice made me have to leave a touching feeling from then on in the acknowledgement column about the illustration. In addition, thank you for showing the handsome Ling and shy Ling to everyone at the same time. Although the acknowledgement is placed behind the touching feelings, I believe you must feel the sincerity between the lines of my words. Mr. Cheese, Editor-in-Chief, your voice has also been engraved in my memory during the tripartite talks. Because we often communicate late at night, your pillow whispers have become a part of my daily life, so I will simply express the same sincere gratitude to you as Teacher Hung Cha. The acknowledgement that is placed at the end every time is naturally given to the readers who have read this book. It is because of your support that this postscript is possible. I am very grateful to be able to read it here. If you have any questions you want to discuss, or if you have anything to complain about, you can post it in the comment area at any time. I hope you will leave your mark here. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 395. The Protoss finally ushered in a rare throne handover ceremony in decades, and the protagonist was none other than the returning mentor Letica. Such an important ceremony and the equally important celebration of the gods, the festival established to commemorate the heroes of the gods who ended the cross-border war, Girls' Day happens to be on the same day. Two happy things overlapped, bringing more happiness, and the gods' territory was unprecedentedly prosperous. The commotion caused by the mimicry magic costume smuggling group did not bring a fatal blow to these two happy things, because the other protagonist of the celebration, she appeared here. Destroy eternal time, reorganize new laws and balances, dedicate all the past to the unknown tomorrow, use all hope to fill the incomplete past. The girl in crimson feathers stood at the center of the gathering gaze and activated the legendary magic that was the key to ending the cross-border war. The crimson radiance blew through the territory of the gods like a warm spring breeze, turning all traces of the commotion into a dream. Everything that was destroyed was restored to its original state. Including the high tower ravaged by the giant steel dragon and the semi-destroyed palace of the gods, there is no sign that they have experienced such an unconventional level of battle. Being able to activate miraculous magic like magic equipment by himself may only be possible by heroes who have left their names in cross-border wars. During the cross-border war, in addition to Unique's time jump, there are also the Orc's instant death and the Elves' reversal, all of which use the talents and wisdom of living creatures to elevate magic to the realm of miracles. After completing its assigned mission, the magic circle that expanded to the entire territory of the gods converged and dissipated in mid-air. The girl fell lightly from mid-air back to the ground, her crimson feather skirt dancing with ribbons, and she smiled like a child just enjoying the game and looked at everyone who was faced with this situation and their hearts were filled with excitement. Everything has returned to its original appearance. It should be a good performance for celebrations and throne handover ceremonies, right? I haven't had the opportunity to use it for so long, and I can't find the original feeling. Haha. The girl who looked to be about 14 or 15 years old held the hands of instructor Letica with a happy face and jumped up and down innocently to celebrate. Teacher Letica, who was also shocked by the legendary ultimate magic, could only smile bitterly to cater to the joyful atmosphere brought by the girl, and high-five each other in celebration. In the eyes of Ika and the others, the girl seemed to be another sister of Teacher Letica. She seemed to be much more immature than Teacher Letica, both in appearance and in her heart. And she, who said I can't find the same feeling as before, now doesn't feel tired at all after performing the ultimate magic, and is still as energetic as a child with endless energy. On the other hand, Mentor Letica, who was about to become the queen of the god clan, was spinning around in awe with the girl, and at the same time, she also had a feeling similar to awe towards the young girl. The girl rejoiced for a while as if no one else was watching, and then turned to Ika and her group who were not affected by the joyful storm. You are the protagonists of that battle, right? It was already over when I noticed it. I'm really sorry that I didn't pay close attention to your battle. Needless to say, it doesn't matter even if you don't pay attention. It's great that you understand. Because I stay at home for too long, it feels very hard just to go out. Now that the incident is over, now we just have to enjoy the time outside. Before Ika could finish speaking, the girl took Ika's hands and led him to experience the storm of joy that Teacher Letica had just experienced. Ling and Lanming, who were already dumbfounded, originally thought that there was some error in Instructor Letica's introduction to this mysterious girl, but after going through all the troubles, Instructor Letica's new explanation for them remained unchanged. Well, this one is the protagonist of Childhood Day, the legendary representative of the gods who ended the cross-border war, Lord Childhood. Well, the girl who heard the name of herself the legendary Children Sama stopped spinning in circles, freed Ika from the happy storm, and ran to lay next to Teacher Taika. How many times have I told you not to call me this name? Besides, it was originally a name given to me by the people without authorization. This kind of name seems to be saying that I am a child who never grows up. Same, unfair, unfair, unfair. But Lord Child, Lord Unique, in the eyes of your people you are the legendary Sir Child. This celebration is also held for you. All the people of the God clan are looking forward to this festival. So please bear with me a little for the sake of the celebration. It could be seen that Unique was getting more and more emotional. She stared closely at the two majestic small peaks swaying on teacher Letica's chest. Letica, so I haven't seen you for so many years, you have really grown up. You have become so arrogant when you grow up. In front of me, you are still the same as the child you were before. Unique suddenly punched teacher Letica's chest with her small fists, and the majestic mountain peak swayed left and right under her small fists in an exaggerated manner. Don't be like this, my lord. Teacher Letica's face instantly turned red. She closed her eyes tightly on the spot and squatted down with both hands holding the ripe fruit that attracted most of the attention. In this game, Unique obviously had the upper hand. She folded her hands triumphantly and laughed. Speaking of which, Unique, who had fully enjoyed the afterglow of victory, turned to look at Lan Ming. Are you a descendant of the Ela family? The candle dragon molten gold is easy to identify. The never-extinguishing golden eyes are the outer appearance of the candle dragon molten gold, a royal magic outfit of the BZ Empire. It is also a very special existence among the magic outfits of different shapes. Me, Lan Ming, who was suddenly called upon by the legendary young lady, replied blankly and quickly made up for his slow response. I am the 6th generation heir of the Ela family. Lan Ming Ela. First time meeting, Mr. Ji, Unique. Oh, it has been passed down to the 5th generation. Unique nodded with her face raised. Is that guy Anili still alive? As the legendary heroes who led the cross-border war to an end, it is not surprising that the divine girl and the human saint know each other. Although Unique looks like she is only 14 or 15 years old, in fact, like Anili, she is a veteran figure who has come all the way from the cross-border war. Like her, Phyllis, the principal of Frost Moon Academy who had experienced the same time, also showed no traces of time on her body. Human lifespan is far from being comparable to the long-lived gods, so Unique hesitates on this issue. In the end, Unique raised this issue. Perhaps the situation about Anili was the issue she was more concerned about. Are you referring to Anili Yila from that period? She was the 1st generation head of the Yila family, and now. Wait, Lan Ming. Let me explain Unili's affairs. There are some things you don't know yet. Lan Ming didn't know what Ika meant by that, but he still followed Ika's request and let him come to him. What Ika took out from his jacket pocket was a PDA that was very ordinary for humans. The Saint Anili, who became the faith of mankind, still watches over her country and people. Except for some big shots who froze Anili's body on the 4th underground floor of the Imperial City Defense Bureau, only Pope Sethis and the people who were present at the time the 4 men in the conservator's cabin knew this fact. Sure enough, it still doesn't work. Ika started the PDA, and the screen showed that there was 0 magic signal in the god's territory. It was impossible to summon the magic signal connected to Anili's body to reveal her figure. Unable to get Anili to show up in person to explain, Ika had no choice but to take back the PDA and instead use verbal explanations to inform the concerned Unique about Anili's current situation. After listening to Ika's explanation, the only ones who were surprised were the 3 Augusts who only knew the truth now. Even Unique laughed ha 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 without being surprised at all. I knew it was impossible for that guy Anili to run off to Elysium by herself without even saying hello. Does that mean that she and your machine are connected together now? Well, that's what it means in a nutshell. But the PDA is a magic machine built on the basis of magic technology. It can't receive the magic signal from the BZ Empire here, so I can't do it here. She screamed. You are a descendant of the Kin's family, right? I knew it when I saw the mechanical alchemy. The girl over there is a descendant of the Heinz family, and she smells like a light flame sword. Smell. Ling's mood must be very complicated at this moment, but in full view of everyone, she could only stand there with a smiling face. Unique probably didn't pay attention to the girl's complicated thoughts. She glanced at the people standing behind Ika and Lanming in turn. And, it also feels like the child from Senchia's family is here too. When her eyes rested on Wei 11 shrank her shoulders timidly for a moment. Unique may have noticed this little movement, and she raised the corners of her mouth slightly. From Unique's words, we can tell that she has met Wei 11 in the past. But her eyes only stayed on Wei 11 for a moment, and she turned to the others without saying anything. Then, descendant of the Kin's family, I will call you Ika. To be honest, I really want to see what Anili looks like now. Since the cross-border war ended and we had no contact with humans, there has been no news from Anili anymore. I also know a little bit about magic technology. If you don't mind, can you adjust the machine for me? Does Master Unique also know about magic technology? Of course, I'm not as proficient as humans. I just have a little understanding. I discussed this with Anili before. She was the one who came up with the concept of magic technology. Having said that, part of the original concept of magic technology was a reference. Because there is such a crossover, it is not that difficult for me to understand. Lord Unique is the first founder of the Light-Su core of our god clan. Ruby proudly added something that Unico forgot to explain. But it has been so many years now. Human magic technology must have changed a lot compared to Anili's time, right? I will try my best to see if I can make contact without damaging the machine. Anili. We also have many words of thanks to say to Anili. We have never had such an opportunity before. It would be great if we could meet Anili. Please, Master Unique. The last time I saw Anili, she took the initiative to appear in front of the current Pope Sethis of the Holy See and helped everyone successfully obtain assistance from the Holy See. Now, the events of the Protoss have come to an end. During this period of time, everyone would be together, and there would not be many opportunities to use the PDA, so Ika safely handed over the PDA that contacted Anili to Unique. Lord Unique, is Anili your friend? Ruby tilted her head and asked a question that any human could answer. Unlike humans, Unique's identity as a child is more worthy of attention for the gods. It's a friend. Just like you called me child, Anili should be called saint among humans. Does that mean she is as great a person as Unique Sama? Great man. Murmuring this slightly distant word, Unique's eyes seemed to have a look of recalling the past. At that time, I just wanted to end the farce-like war. I never thought that we would have the status we have now, and we have probably all lost what we really want. Perhaps no one at Ruby's age would be able to empathize with Unique, who has experienced hundreds of years. Even if they have learned the relevant knowledge about cross-border wars, the children in Unique's eyes only understand the most superficial level, and they have never been able to come into contact with the deepest level that can only be understood by personal experience. Deep meaning. Ika, I will borrow this machine first. Don't worry, I will come to you personally after repairing it. After saying that, a seemingly different floating magic circle appeared under Unique's feet. She flew like a free bird under the colorful sky, and in the blink of an eye, the crimson figure was no longer visible. Under Unique's time jump, the traces of destruction caused by the commotion that lasted for nearly a week seemed to have never existed from the beginning. The royal palace of the gods had informed the people in advance that this was the magic of a childish adult, so it did not cause panic because the people mistakenly thought that a change had occurred, but was simply regarded by them as part of the celebration and the handover ceremony of the throne. So, now the two most critical events have come to an end successfully. In the remaining time, how about we temporarily put aside the troubles at hand and relax for a long time? Teacher Letica turned around, looked at everyone with a smile and clapped their hands. There was no trace of the previous entanglement with the past in her expression. When she first returned to the palace of the gods, she could still vaguely feel the atmosphere from her body, but now it has completely disappeared. Perhaps, during the many days they first arrived, many things in many people's hearts were gradually changing their initial shape. End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 396. The large-scale collapse of suspended urban clusters caused by the obstruction of the flow of magic power has brought huge disasters to the Protoss, and has also become news that has been passed down from generation to generation in the recent period of the Protoss. As the central figures involved in the entire incident, human visitors like Ica also became the focus of public attention. This happened in just one day. Although an event with such a large impact occurred, the physical damage was to an abandoned city, some border cities and the royal palace of the gods. In most areas, the preparations for the Childhood Day celebration and the throne handover ceremony did not receive too much attention. Interference. Judging from the results, except for its relatively wide impact, this incident may not be called a big event. At least for the Protoss, the two major events they were most concerned about were proceeding in an orderly manner from beginning to end. Teacher Letica's throne handover ceremony and Girls' Day celebration will be held as usual. It is a rare opportunity to bring them, the central figures of the incident, to the forefront at this time. During the rescue operation to destroy the floating city cluster, Lan Ming and Wei 11's personal efforts have been noticed by most of the people of the God clan. Ica and Ling were introduced to everyone as comrades of Her Royal Highness the Princess, shaping the two into heroes who fundamentally saved the Protoss from the Great Crisis. Until the end of the entire ceremony, no part of it was criticized. The power of the Protoss was officially transferred to the hands of Mentor Letica, and Lan Ming also received the support of the Protoss as the exiled princess of the Bis Empire. Through this incident, the Nemesis Society, which originally only operated in human countries, has become the object of hostility of the gods. This is undoubtedly an unexpected help for Ica and the others. The incident of the mimicry magic clothes smuggling group has come to an end. However, for the boys and girls who are still on the runaway side, this is just a small first step. Until the end, Ica still missed Lulu. Lolo was not found in the semi-destroyed abandoned tower, and Ica once again lost contact with Lolo. Now the only excuse that can be used by Ica to calm down his anxiety is to learn the fact that Lolo was indeed not forced, but committed himself to the Nemesis Society by his own will. Although Ica has not yet received the reason for doing this from Lulu, this result is at least much better than not knowing anything. When the Protoss investigation team searched the entire tower after the battle, they could not find Mishi and Komaki. Ica is not sure whether he got Mish involved in the mimic magical steel serpent while destroying it, but his attack deliberately avoided the tower. At least Komaki should still be hiding somewhere safe and sound. All in all, the workshop of the smuggling group in the Protoss territory has been destroyed, and the clues about the Nemesis Society have once again been cut off. The investigation team is still searching the tower, hoping to obtain any clues about the Nemesis Society. The step they just took has just gained a firm footing, and there are still many things waiting for Instructor Letica and Lan Ming to deal with. Ica and the others cannot make much action for the time being. Classmate Lan Ming, this is the end of what I can do for you, and you will need to work hard next. Thank you for thinking so much for us, Tutor Letica. Now that we have a little time, Ica-san doesn't seem to be as anxious as at first, so we can buy some time to wait and see what happens. The Protoss represented by Instructor Letica has now only become the backstage force supporting Lan Ming's right to speak, but Instructor Letica has previously stated that she will not lend her troops to Lan Ming on the table. If the Protoss adopts that approach, it will be the same as obtaining a puppet regime from humans. This will be very detrimental to the public opinion guidance of both the Protoss and humans. Now for Ica and the others, the top priority is to recapture Lolo from the Nemesis Society. For Lan Ming, the most important thing is to prevent the war between the Bizi Empire and the Tiberai Kingdom, prove his innocence, and regain his own country. The mimicry magic clothes smuggling group disappeared after experiencing this turmoil. The Nemesis Society, which had some connection with them, once again fell into the fog. After thinking about it, Aika came to the decision that she still had to start from human countries. This decision was made another day. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 397. Ruby has been a little troubled lately. It has been a week since Aika entered the Protoss territory, but it seems that there has been no progress between him and teacher Letica. Ruby carefully thought about the reason why this happened, that is, there were too few points of contact between the two. According to the analysis of a girl who has never experienced love, the reason is undoubtedly that the eldest brother and sister do not spend enough time together. A few days ago, there was a battle at the border of the Protoss territory. The two could have joined hands to give birth to the bud of love in the crisis, but this opportunity was not fully utilized. Although the events surrounding Lanming and Luoluo this week have made Ruby realize how important they are to Aika, Ruby still hopes that Aika can pay more attention to her sister. In Ruby's heart, one sister has always been a symbol of gentleness and strength. She left home alone to go to Shichizuki Academy. In order to express her decision to her parents, she did not even inherit the family's magic weapon Mist Mirror, but left it to Ruby. Unbeknownst to Ruby, her current sister has grown into a mature woman like a hibiscus, and she has inherited the magic costume Aurora of Mirrors from the legendary figure of the god clan, Aurora Phyllis. But in Ruby's eyes, the image of struggling alone made her even more heartbroken. She still firmly believed that only a man who is as gentle and strong as her sister can become her sister's pillar of support. In the Sea Mist Fleet, she met Aika, who was gentle to all girls, and witnessed Aika fighting powerful monsters in the palace. Ruby believed that Aika must be her sister's destined one. For this reason, now that a series of turbulent events have finally calmed down, she made a special trip to the room of Cara Little, who has a close relationship with Aika. Your Highness Aika and Letica. It's not just a day or two that Ruby is so concerned about information about Aika. When she found out that she and Aika were classmates at Frost Moon Academy, she grabbed herself and asked many questions such as Aika is usually a what kind of person? Does he have any special preferences for the opposite sex? Are the girls he is with are in a relationship, and other questions, so Carol was not too surprised by the seemingly sudden question. If there are other questions about Aika, Carol can answer them immediately. Whether the three girls living together in the administrator's cabin like Aika or not, even the students in Shimizuki Academy who have only heard of them can tell at a glance, but Carolee doesn't know whether Aika has responded to their feelings. So I chose the most conservative answer. But for such a question that clearly wants to connect Aika and Letica's mentor, his answer may be of great importance to Ruby, so the answer is not that easy in comparison. Sister Luoluo is the elder brother's sister. If it's just a family member, it should be just that kind of relationship. Sister Lanming is the human princess, and my sister is now the queen of the gods. The difference in status should not be very big. Ruby, whether you like someone or not is not something that can be easily determined. As for whether there might be the kind of ambiguous relationship between Aika and teacher Letica that Ruby imagined, Cara Little has been observing at Frost Moon Academy for so long, and judging from her feelings, it seems unlikely. Even if that possibility does exist, it won't be that ambiguous relationship. Aika aside, if teacher Letica really wanted to go further, she would be more proactive than she is now. Instructor Letica is more mature than the girls who have not yet graduated, including herself. She will definitely go all out for what she wants to get, just like she resolutely left the territory of the gods instead of waiting for the other party to take the initiative. So Carol thought in her heart that Ruby didn't need to worry so much and just let nature take its course. However, these conclusions were reached precisely because Carolee herself had known Ika for such a long time. Ruby, who has only known Ika for less than half a month, may find it difficult for a girl at a sentimental age to understand what she wants to express. Well, I think Her Majesty Ruby should get in touch with Ika in person, so that you can understand all aspects of him more thoroughly, right? Eh? Me. Think about it, you are Lady Letica's sister. If he pays more attention to you, he will naturally turn his attention to Lady Letica, who is your sister, right? You don't need to think about it to know that Ika will beat herself up mercilessly after knowing that she gave such advice, but Carolyle feels that this can not only directly solve Ruby's troubles, but also prevent her from rushing too far recently. Ika is a little troubled and calms down his mind. It just so happens that tomorrow Ika will go to the tower where he fought before to see the progress of the current investigation team. I will find a way to keep the girls around him here. Your Highness, Ruby, please accompany him. Of course. I will also try my best to allow Her Royal Highness Letica to make time to accompany you, and then it will depend on your performance. Just when Ruby felt helpless because of the heavy responsibility that suddenly fell on her, Carol had already arranged everything for her with a snicker in her heart. As a result, the next day came as scheduled, and the only people waiting at the Tasi Kong waiting area were Ika and Ruby. Today, Ruby is wearing a strapless sleeveless dress, her bare pink feet are wearing refreshing sandals, her beautiful slightly curly hair is curled into a cute little bun on the side with a girly hair tie, and her hair is flowing from the back of the dress. The white neck was exposed from the panties. The crossbody bag slung from the shoulder to the waist makes this fresh outfit highlight the vitality of summer. Ruby, don't you have any other work today? I might stay there all day. Ah, yes, it's okay. Except for the staff of Toshi Sara around, no one familiar to Ika and Ruby was there. We had already agreed to go there together, but Ling and Wei 11 suddenly said this morning that they had something to do and couldn't come. Carlo seemed to be too busy with work, so I thought I was really the only one going there. Get up, I probably don't know anyone in the investigation team over there. A person in the past means he's really unfamiliar with the place. Where's, sister? Will Teacher Letica come too? She has just taken over the Queen's job and she should be very busy. It is with this in mind that I didn't bother her. Sister Sama will come, she promised me yesterday. Yesterday? Have Ruby and Teacher Letica already discussed today's schedule without her knowing? No. It's just that when I heard that my eldest brother was going to that place, I asked my sister if she wanted to go with us. I see, then let's wait a little longer. There will still be some time before Tasi Kong is ready. Since Tutor Letica promised Ruby to accompany her, she would not come here late no matter what. While waiting, Ruby stood carefully beside Ika, maintaining a subtle distance between them. Occasionally she would quietly glance to the side, then quickly turn her gaze back and grab her crossbody bag and cross it over the shoulder strap on her chest. Ruby originally wanted to hide her nervousness about being alone with Ika at the moment. She glanced at Ika from time to time to see if he noticed her mood, but she didn't notice this little gesture at all and instead revealed the mood she wanted to hide. Come out. Although for Ruby, this trip was just a simple inspection of the progress of the investigation besides helping mentor Letica make connections, she knew that there was a more profound reason why Ika took the time to go to that place in person. Brother, do you still think Sister Luoluo will still be in that tower? She's probably gone a long time ago. A slightly regretful bitter smile appeared on Ika's face. I didn't seize that opportunity. I don't know how long it will take to see her again. Then why go there? Before Ruby could ask, she saw Teacher Letica flying towards here using floating magic from a distance. Elder sister. Instructor Letica, who was still wearing a palace dress, didn't look like she was ready for a trip. She landed lightly in front of Ika and Ruby. Sorry, the palace suddenly arranged an important meeting today. The other party is the manager of the floating city cluster that fell before. I'm sorry, Ruby, Aika, I really can't accompany you today. I heard from Carlos-san that the others seem to be staying in the palace for various reasons. Ruby, just stay with Aika-san today. If you need help, do your best to help. But be careful not to cause any trouble to him. But, Oni-sama. The unexpected unfolding completely panicked Ruby. She originally just wanted to help teacher Letica create various opportunities to get close to Aika during this trip, but she never expected that it would become a trip with just herself and Aika. Behind teacher Letica, Kara Little, dressed in the formal attire of a palace man, also appeared. Your Highness Letica, the preparations at the venue are complete. I know, I will go back right away. Before the two left, Carol glanced meaningfully at Aika and Ruby, who was standing beside him blankly. Aika just regarded Kara Little's eye contact as a daily greeting and raised her hand in response. Only Ruby knew that Carol had definitely done something in the middle to lead to the current situation. It seems that no one else will come after losing sight of teacher Letica and Kara Little. Aika turned around and decided to set off. Let's go, Ruby. Okay. With this uneasy feeling, Ruby nodded vigorously, clutched the shoulder strap of her crossbody bag with both hands, and followed Aika to the Tsukan. The cabin door closed, and the chieftain flew the two of them to the steel tower that had become the center of the incident a few days ago. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 398. It has only been a few days since the investigation of the steel tower in the abandoned city by the Protoss investigation team began, and they have already encountered some difficulties. Because Mishi, who once used this place as a workshop, seems to be a senior researcher in the northwest district of the BZ Empire's imperial capital, the interior of the steel tower, originally built with a light fiber core, has been transformed into a completely different look using magic technology. The Protoss investigation team, which knew little about magic technology, was naturally unable to conduct an in-depth analysis, and the progress of the investigation was much slower than expected. The mimetic magic suit that looked like a giant steel dragon once slept in the underground cavity of the tower, and broke out from the ground and penetrated the entire tower. The reason why this tower has not collapsed yet is because the floating technology in the core of the light fiber is exerting its final effect, but this crumbling state is only a matter of time before it completely collapses. It is precisely because of this that the investigation team stayed here throughout the day to advance the progress of the investigation. Although the entire tower is supported by the floating technology of the optical fiber core, the probability of the part above the ground collapsing in a short period of time is very small. But the underground part has become a mess due to the riot of the steel dragon, and now it looks like a mine that may collapse at any time. Aika held Ruby's little hand and followed the tunnel formed when the steel dragon broke out of the earth, deeper into the underground cavity. The road is a bit steep, so be careful where you step. Thanks. Now the two of them are heading towards the deepest part of the underground cavity, with ruins and broken walls visible everywhere. Although the only tunnel was supported by tools that looked like robotic arms, the messy rubble on the ground still gave people an uneasy feeling. In order to be alert to accidents that may happen at any time, Ruby has summoned the Mirror of Mist. The slender staff with two big bells attached to the head was temporarily used as a crutch to prevent her from falling. The clear sound of the bells sounded from time to time in this gloomy cave, unexpectedly dispelling the cold feeling around her and bringing about a touch of joyful vitality. The energy supply system here seems to have been set up by Mishi in order to debug the mimicry magic equipment. The lighting extends deep into the ground, so it is not difficult to distinguish the southeast from the northwest. Ruby, do you feel cold? Me? Ruby paused, then shook her head slightly. Where's Big Brother? The temperature underground is indeed very different from that on the ground. I feel that the temperature gets lower and lower as we go down there. It can be said that Aika's outfit was specially put on to explore this kind of terrain. But Ruby's outfit is completely opposite to Aika's. Her clothes were more suitable for an outing in the wild than in a ghost place like this, and her feet were still barefoot and wearing sandals, which was very unsuitable for walking in such a place. Originally, Aika was worried that she would not be used to this kind of action, and wanted her to stay on the ground and be taken care of by the Protoss investigation team. But this approach failed Ruby's purpose of coming here in person, so Aika brought her here without any complaints. In order to cooperate with Ruby, who had difficulty moving, Aika deliberately slowed down her progress. The crisp sound of bells accompanied the two people's footsteps as they slowly advanced deeper. Aika didn't know if she was just saying that she wasn't cold. After all, that summer strapless dress couldn't withstand the natural cold. Aika thinks so because her little hands are cold now. This is the most intuitive feeling. Perhaps because the light was not bright enough, it was not clear whether Ruby was holding back or not. Apart from the most basic exchanges, there was basically no other conversation between the two. Ah! Suddenly, the little hand held by Aika grasped his hand tightly. Ruby shuddered suddenly, her whole body shrank, and she pulled Aika's hand back. What's wrong? It's so cold. Aika didn't let go of Ruby's hand and took a step to come to her side. There was a drop of water splashing on his right shoulder, which was exposed to the cold air. At this time, another drop of water fell on Aika's head. He looked up at the tunnel dome. Water seemed to be seeping from the cracked pipe, with a drop falling every few seconds. It doesn't matter, it's just ordinary water. Aika wiped off the water drops on Ruby's shoulder with her fingers. The underground pipes here should be rebuilt like human cities. The previous battle caused the water pipes here to crack. It's not strange things, don't worry. Only when I touched Ruby's body did I realize that not only her little hands, but also the exposed skin was indeed cold. Now Aika is finally sure that she is just trying to be brave when she says she is not cold. Let's take a rest after we get to the area in front where there is no leakage. The underground cavity was not as deep as they thought. After walking a few dozen meters, we arrived at the underground center where lights gathered. The surrounding lighting facilities should all be tools of the investigation team, because this is where the focus of investigation should be. There is a lot of space here, and various thick pipes extend to the center as if they were torn apart by violence. The now empty center should be where the mimicry magic outfit that originally looked like a steel dragon had occupied. Aika found a slightly flat stone nearby. Compared with the surrounding gravel, its relatively normal shape could barely be used as a stool. He took Ruby's hand and asked her to sit on it, then took off his coat and draped it over her body, which was exposed to the cold air. Ruby seemed a little surprised by Aika's actions, but now Aika's attention turned to the huge space where the steel dragon once occupied. Ruby, who moved her lips to say thank you, didn't say anything in the end. She just held onto the coat that still contained Aika's body temperature and sat quietly on the stone bench. After confirming that there were no potential dangers worth noting in the surrounding environment, Aika returned to Ruby's side. It seems that this place has been thoroughly investigated by your people, and there is probably nothing particularly useful left. Otherwise, Mishi and Komaka would not give up here easily. Don't you need to go take a closer look around? I just need to stay here and won't disturb you anymore. What are you talking about, Ruby? The two of us came here together. Of course we can't leave you behind. He was like a knight protecting the little princess, looking at Ruby sitting on the stone bench. Squatting down in front of him, even if the investigation team has checked this place, there may still be a risk of sudden collapse. So we can't be too far apart here. When we really encounter danger, we have to rely on your mist. This is the mirror. Even if it was just comfort, Ruby would be very happy as long as there was a hint in Aika's words that she could help. She walked with an uneasy mood all the way. Because I am Oni-sama's younger sister, I don't want to be a drag and give Aika a bad impression. Otherwise, all the things I want to do for Onisama will not be achieved. Ruby had no idea that the place she was coming to was so dangerous, so she just wore the most ordinary clothes. Even though she really felt her body was cold, she didn't say anything because if she were Onisama, she would never talk about this difficulty. Is your foot sprained? Noticing Aika's gaze, Ruby consciously put away her feet. It doesn't hurt very much. The bare feet in sandals hid in the shadow of the stone bench as if they were hiding out of Aika's sight. The slender legs seemed to be rubbing together uneasily. I have never been to a place like this. Sorry, I forced you. It would have been better if I had told you in advance that we were coming to a place like this. Aika knew that Ruby had her share of responsibility for not being properly dressed. Instead of blaming Ruby, he apologized frankly to her, taking all the blame on himself. But he still didn't say what he shouldn't have said, that is, it would be better for you to stay up there. Ruby took the initiative to follow him to a place where he could face danger at any time. And whether it was teacher Letika's instructions before departure or Ruby's true intention, Aika knew that she had been looking for opportunities to help her. If she said something that was just for efficiency but not for fun, it would be trampling on her sincere self-esteem. Can I have a look at? Aika's request seemed to be too much beyond Ruby's expectations. She looked at Aika, who was sincere with a silly expression, her brain spinning crazily trying to understand what he wanted to do with such a request. My blood can probably alleviate the pain a little bit. You know Philly's physique, right? Because of everything that happened before, I'm a bit similar to her. Seeing Ruby's delay in responding, Aika had no choice but to add the minimum explanation, and Ruby finally understood what Aika meant. He couldn't refuse Aika's kindness, and he felt ashamed that everything he was thinking in his heart could be seen through. Ruby's inner defenses were completely relieved by the gentle and strong boy in front of her. Still with a trace of hesitation, she pursed her lips tightly and slightly raised her right leg hidden behind her left leg. Skin that can be broken by blows exudes an inviolable sense of sanctity. Aika carefully lifted her slender legs with her hands and untied the ribbon on her sandals. With the shoes as the last line of defense removed, the naked pink feet held in the palms felt as cool as the little hands they held not long ago. In this coolness that seems to be assimilated with the surrounding environment, there is a completely different sense of comfort. The skin that had never been touched by a man was exposed to his eyes for the first time. Ruby closed her eyes tightly to endure the overflowing sense of shame, and pressed hard with her other hand to cover almost all of her body. Aika, who was squatting down, looked at the bottom of her skirt and turned her head as far as possible to the side. Still, are you okay yet? Ruby urged Aika in a low voice and glanced in Aika's direction with her eyes secretly opened a slit. Aika ran her fingers over her tender calf, inspecting the injured area. The fresh, tingling feeling of her fingers across her skin forced Ruby to hum in a dull voice. In the empty underground cave, the sweet moans can be clearly heard in the huge space. When caressing a part where the temperature is slightly higher than the surrounding skin, the sweet tone is mixed with a hint of pain. Here. With the unclear lighting, you can notice that the fair skin on the ankle is slightly red and swollen. It was probably scratched by the gravel on the road here, but fortunately there was no obvious wound that was open and bleeding. Aika used the generated magic power to draw a thin mark on her finger, and bright red blood beads emerged from the wound. Seeing this, Ruby's eyes widened in surprise. You don't have to go to this point, Ruby panicked and tried to pull her little feet away from Aika's grasp. As long as, just take a rest and it will be fine. Ruby didn't expect that Aika would hurt herself to get blood. When Aika said that he and Philly's physiques were somewhat similar, Ruby just thought that he could freely manipulate blood like a vampire. But Aika held the soft little paw firmly in her hand, and it was impossible for Ruby to break free with her strength. I'm sorry, is it a bit annoying because it's my blood? That's not it. Although the unexperienced girl was already unable to resist the current scene, it's not because you hate your big brother's blood, but you got hurt because of me, I originally thought you didn't have to hurt yourself. You can also get blood. I didn't expect it to be like this. This level is nothing for a boy. Did you see that I frowned just now? That, didn't see it too clearly. It's because I've never done this before that you didn't see it. However, I clearly saw you frowning when we were walking along. Otherwise, how would I know that you were injured? So, and you're compared with the pain, my little injury is nothing at all. In fact, I could only guess that Ruby was injured from her dress and coy attitude. The reason for using this statement is just to make her believe in herself. I'm sorry, big brother. Just be patient for a little bit and you'll get better soon. It seemed that Ruby was finally relieved, and Aika evenly applied her blood drops to the red and swollen area on her ankle. Aika received a large amount of half-vampire blood from Tailua-senpai, and human blood was assimilated into the characteristics of the vampire blood. But all in all, Tailua-senpai is only half a vampire, and the blood in Aika's body is still overwhelmingly human. It was blood that had been diluted through multiple layers. In addition, Ruby's sprained ankle was not a direct open wound. Just smearing your own blood on the surface of the skin would not leave any sequelae for Ruby. How's it going? Apart from the slight pain when my fingers touch it, are there any other uncomfortable feelings? When applying the blood, Aika had to run his fingers across the red and swollen skin, and he also noticed the discomfort that occasionally flashed across Ruby's face. No, it's not uncomfortable, it's just a cold feeling. Really? It feels like water drops dripping from the ceiling, right? As she said that, Aika finally let go of Ruby's feet. After handling it like this, you should just rest for a while and it will be fine. The little feet that had always been held by Aika were finally freed. Ruby hugged her knees and sat stiffly, as if she wanted to hide them quickly. Aika was vaguely aware of Ruby's current thoughts. He just pretended not to see it and prepared to sit down in the empty seat next to Ruby. However, just as Aika sat down, his hand accidentally touched the mist mirror lying behind Ruby. The two bells made a crisp sound, which was infinitely amplified in this empty underground cave. Ruby, who was a little nervous, was naturally startled by the sudden sound from behind, and even forgot that it was the sound coming from her magic costume. At the same time, because she was not used to sitting with her knees clasped, Ruby immediately lost her balance when her posture tilted a little, and fell towards Aika next to her. As a result, it looked like Ruby was lying on Aika's legs, curled up like a cat trying to keep warm. In order to protect Ruby from hitting something, Aika reflexively reached out and hugged her body, and her own hand also touched a certain part that belonged only to the girl. Ruby's face instantly turned red, and she even forgot the point of leaving Aika first, and just apologized with trembling lips. Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Me too, I'm sorry. Only Aika reacted immediately and moved away his hands that touched the girl's private parts. Even if it was only for a moment, the softness unique to girls was left in the hand, as well as the delicate feel that seemed to break at the touch of a touch. After a beat, Ruby also sat up holding onto the edge of the stone bench. Although the original posture was restored, the subtle atmosphere that had just been brewed still slowly flowed between the two. Not sure if it was to break the awkward atmosphere, Ruby spoke slowly. Ever since I was a child, I have always admired Oni-sama. Such a gentle and strong Oni-sama, as long as there is anything she wants to do, there seems to be nothing she can't do. This is somewhat different from what Aika heard from her seniors and classmates at Shimizuki Academy about the image of Teacher Letica when she was a student. Teacher Letica, who is well known in Shimizuki Academy, seems to be more of a simple and natural person. Until now, this idea has not changed. Although Oni-sama sometimes feels dull, even that is not seen in me, so I have always envied her. Perhaps during the time between the Protoss Palace and Frost Moon Academy, people with different relationships focused on the different sides of Teacher Letica, and Aika, who was lucky enough to be so close to Teacher Letica, knew the truth of the combination of these two sides. Appearance. Teacher Letica is really an excellent tutor. Just like Ruby said, she is very gentle and very strong. To this day, I am very lucky to have the first person I met after entering Shimizuki Academy. She is the mentor. However, Aika's compliments to Letica's mentor only made Ruby feel even more frustrated. I can't be like Oni-sama, although there are many things I want to do, I don't persist until the end. Even if I make up my mind to leave home and find Oni-sama, I just want to be comforted by her shadow. The sense of pride and satisfaction you get from looking at the person you admire. It's obviously something that doesn't belong to you, but when you look at Oni-sama, you'll have the illusion that one day I will become just like Oni-sama. But in my opinion, you are much stronger than you think. Aika supported her legs with both hands, smiled and looked at Ruby, who lowered her head and said dejected words, "Even if my body is very cold and my feet hurt, but you followed me here without saying a word of complaint. If I didn't notice it, you were going to keep it secret from me, right? Although the behavior is not worthy of praise, but it is strong enough. But anyone can do this kind of thing. Does something that anyone can do must be ordinary and not worth mentioning? Or can it be called remarkable only if you accomplish something that others cannot do? That kind of thing." In fact, Ruby's real thoughts were not the literal meaning of her words, but she just didn't know how to express the inexplicable and complicated feelings in words. Aika only responded to the literal meaning of her expression, and did not really resolve the part of her heart that she did not recognize. But with his words, Ruby, who couldn't refute, was finally able to calm down and think. What is the part that I don't recognize? She couldn't help but start to think about this problem that she had never faced head-on before. Just like Aika questioned herself repeatedly, Ruby also questioned herself in her heart. Teacher Letica. Do we want to break the dreamy longing for Oni-sama in the girl's heart? Aika thought for a moment. I originally wanted to say, actually, there are many things that Teacher Letica can't do, but in the end, I didn't tell her in such a direct way. You must have heard most of what Teacher Letica and I said that night, right? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to eavesdrop at first, I just felt that I couldn't interrupt you and my sister at that time. When did you start hearing it? When I saw Oni-sama going out, I was already there. Ruby calmed down and answered Aika honestly. She did not have the courage to continue lying in front of Aika. Then you heard everything? Aika chuckled unconcernedly, and the hearty voice echoed in the underground cave. Since you have heard everything, you should also know that Teacher Letica actually has a lot of troubles, right? At that time, I did say that she could rely on us as students. But just as you, Ruby, have always longed for Teacher Letica, who is closest to you, the person who should be the most reliable person for Teacher Letica should be it's you, who are the sister. But I'm not like your sister, big brother. Since you have heard everything about Lugo, I will tell you the truth. Comparing what happened this time, you should know what a clumsy sister she is. She is obviously regarded as my most solid support, but it's caused me so much trouble. But the big brother doesn't look angry. Yeah, why should I be angry? I knew from the beginning that she was such a clumsy sister, and I regarded her as my support on this premise. If I don't have Lugo by my side, I can't become strong, then Lugo has to be strong to make up for what I lack, because she has a useless brother like me hanging around her all the time. Now, Aika no longer knows whether to tell Ruby specifically or to herself. It's just that the words I want to say are pouring out like an unstoppable spring. Ruby stared blankly at Aika's eloquent words, describing with love and hate her clumsy yet strong sister that she had never seen in person until now. Ruby, you and Teacher Letica are family members. There must be something in you that can make up for each other's shortcomings. This is the privilege that only those who are born into a family have. So cheer up, Ruby, you are not as weak as you thought. Besides, you are the mainstay of the Highway fleet. The entire fleet is named after your magical equipment ability. Ika stroked Ruby's little head with a loving smile, and Ruby opened her watery eyes. She seemed to have forgotten the pain in her feet, and her whole body and mind were attracted by the boy's every move. After a few seconds, Ruby showed an imperceptible sweet smile. It was the smile that came from the heart unconsciously as Ika held her little hand and walked into a world she had never seen before. Seeing the change in Ruby's expression, the serious Ika's expression softened. "Does the injured area on your foot still hurt?" Ruby shook her head, put on the sandals she had taken off, stood up from the stone bench, and spun around in circles. Although the ground under her feet was still rugged and her delicate skin was still exposed, her body became much lighter. "That's good. It doesn't look like there's anything to gain here. We can't see the specific situation just by taking a few glances here. Let's go back to the ground and listen to what the investigation team has to say after we get out." "Yeah, big brother." Ruby was about to turn around and return to the ground along the tunnel she came from, but Ika stood there and stretched out her hand to her. "Big brother. I'll carry you on the way back." How is that possible? The way up is harder than the way down. If you still walk by yourself, won't you get hurt again?" But, I'll trouble you to carry it on my brother's back." Ruby still shook her head, but her attitude gradually began to soften. Probably realizing that if he didn't accept Ika's proposal, he wouldn't let himself leave here. Ruby began to consider Ika's proposal hesitantly. "For this one time only, please consider it as your permission to serve Miss Ruby to the end." With this reason, the last resistance fell, and Ika finally made Ruby, who had been overdrawn from shame, accept her proposal. She took Ika's outstretched hand with a trembling hand. When she leaned her body against the solid back, Ruby's face was filled with a shy blush that she absolutely didn't want anyone to see, and she hugged Ika's neck tightly with her hands. "Hold tight, we are ready to go back." Okay, yeah," Ika said and stood up. The moment her eyes suddenly raised, Ruby's heart seemed to stop beating for half a beat. Even Ruby realized that she had made an inelegant, slightly off-key high note, and she immediately buried her face into Ika's back with a shameful plop. Ika laughed heartily. Although his original intention was probably to show that he didn't mind Ruby's nervousness, it made Ruby's fair neck turn pink. Finally, Ruby was carried all the way back to the ground by Ika. Feeling the large body that was clinging to her without any wavering, a sense of security that she had never felt before suddenly penetrated her heart. "I just pay a little attention to the arms holding my thighs. Is this what humans call skin-to-skin contact?" But it was definitely not a physical feeling of disgust, it just brought a feeling of excitement in the chest. The young girl who has never experienced this new feeling still doesn't know the emotional reality that makes her body unbearably hot.